What is up, DTube? So today I want to talk about the hex escape velocity. So what kind of funny idea is this? Well, I've been kind of considering it, this concept of hex escape velocity. And it was when I ran some numbers. So I was running some numbers. If you had a couple $1,000 and you staked it in the hex, and you got the big payday bonus 3x, and you like unstaked it on January the 1st 2021. Now, um let's talk about that concept of hex escape velocity. So let's say hex would go up to, I don't know, 25 cents. So that would be 78x times 3x. It would be around a 234x gain. And the 3x times 78x, the reason why the 3x would be because you will get the big payday bonus on November the 19th. So you get 3x force multiplier 78x. 78x would come from 0.0032 up to, I think, around 25 cents. So those multiply each other. So you would get around 230x. And if we would, let's run some numbers. Let's say $5,000, 234x. That's $1,000,000, okay? So let's talk about this concept of hex escape velocity. So what I was considering is, okay, this aspect of limitless computing power that I think we're moving towards a world where a lot of people have limitless computing power. So let's say a person would make $1,000,000, 170,000 by if they're $5,000 hex at the moment, if they staked it to January the 1st, 2021, and it went if it went up to 25 cents per hex, that would be, yeah, $1,000,000 and $170,000. So okay, so this is kind of interesting, right? So big chunk of liquid hex. Now, what would happen if you still staked that $1,000,000, 170,000 then for 30 days? Well, you would get around, when I did the math, you would get around 1%. So you would earn around, staking $1,000,000, 170,000 in hex, you would earn in 30 days around, if price would stay the same, $11,700, around 1%. Now, if you stake longer, obviously you would get so much more. But it's still kind of funny to consider this concept of hex escape velocity, where when if you could already earn that, like just in trustless interest, $11,700, and then you start to consider how much computing, how much more computing power you can get with that. So for example, that would be, I think, around 20 high-end smartphones from last year. So you would be able to have 20 new high-end, pretty high-end smartphones already in 30 days from you staking that $1,000,000, if that went up 234x from $5,000. When you start running those numbers and you start to consider this concept of, it seems like people are going to have limitless computing power eventually. So let me tell you about my experience with this. So I recently bought a 3,000 euro MacBook Pro. I also bought recently a 1,500 euro Galaxy S20 Ultra. Last year also I bought the Galaxy S10, Galaxy S10 Plus, and Galaxy Note 10 Plus or something like that. And the experience was just amazing when I got these devices, because I could see how much better the computing power had improved over a couple of years. So I kind of went from a Galaxy S8 instantly to the Galaxy S10. And I had kind of been away from buying phones for maybe 2 years. And when I saw how much more amazing these new devices were, because like better computing power, like they're moving faster, better processor and all this, it was truly like a paradigm shift for me. Because all still to this day, like, so I bought the Galaxy S20 Ultra a couple of months ago. It's so fast, like it's crazy fast. I mean, it thinks so quick, it makes actions so fast. And I really can feel like an abundance already of computing power, that I can do so much more than what I could do previously. So for example, with the Galaxy S8, you could barely do a good front-facing video with the front-facing camera, because the front-facing camera was just so bad. So when you get more computing power, you can do more in the same amount of time. And it really becomes, these ads where they did a couple of years ago on different smartphones, like when there was a new phone coming out and they were showing like, oh, you can do so much with this device. In the beginning, like when they started to roll out these ads maybe 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you couldn't really do that much with the smartphone. But now you can actually do it. Like the ads that they started 10 or 15 years ago, and when they showcased a new device and like, wow, you can do everything with this device, it wasn't actually true then, because everything was kind of slow, multitasking, doing a lot of things with the device, kind of slow down, slow processor, bad software. But now it's actually starting to turn true that, yeah, people are actually moving into this phase where they have limitless computing power and where they actually can do everything exactly that they need without even overheating their devices, their computer or their smartphone. And I think this is really, really an interesting thing to kind of study, because if a person just randomly can earn like another 11K in a month from just some staking in a smart contract, I think that's very, very fascinating to kind of consider. Because when you have this, like, so when people, so with that value, people can buy the best computer, the best smartphone, and they all the time, always have the best computing power. That means that they can do more research, more AI, eventually AI machine learning, and they can use the tools they have much more efficiently, which means that they can build up so much more free time. And that is where I'm talking about this hex escape velocity, that is such a fascinating concept, because that would mean that a hexagon eventually would just be able to do everything with the interest. And it is like, it's very cool, because we never seen this in the past, that humans have like been able to do this in this particular way, because we didn't have like trustless interest in this way in the past. It was just slower, right? So this is also, I would say, like a speed up of time. Stuff that used to take 30 years, people can now almost do it in a month. And that is like very, very fascinating, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to evolve. A big thing I think is going to do inside of the crypto industry is we're going to see better niche based tokens, more professional in more researched markets, and less kind of hype. And I mean, most of the tokens that we have right now in the crypto industry, they're not that interesting. So we got a lot of 2017 tokens, and most of them, it was just like fake projects. Nothing came out. They just made a white paper, and like nothing almost came out of it. But when people already have so much wealth eventually from like trustless interest and maybe DTC coin, it makes it so people can really do real stuff. They can look at real markets, real industries. They can do more R&D, like research and development. And then they're probably going to come up with way better ideas, way better products that actually has that actually may have real utility in the real world. So in the beginning, that there 2017, people had this concept that everything needs a token. We need to tokenize everything. And now that idea kind of has died down, mainly because, I mean, I think a lot of things in theory can work. Like a lot of crypto token projects looks very cool, but the problem usually is lack of funding, or mainly it is that the teams are incompetent, or it is that they're not consistent. So maybe they do something for a few months and then they quit. They're not obsessed with like success. So a lot of things, most things, I think actually would be able to succeed. But it's just that they're not passionate. Like most teams are not passionate. Most people are not doing something that they truly love. Like I really love making vlogs. Like I think it's really fun. I think it's really fun to educate people. I think it's like useful content, and it's very, very fun to me. But I know a lot of people, they're not doing fun stuff at all. So it seems like when I run the math that a lot of people are gonna be in this like hex escape velocity mode, where they have what they need to do what they want to do. So when a person has the fastest computer, fastest smartphone, I mean, is not really that much more that they need, right? Like they can then focus more on like research and development, and that's going to be really really cool because I talked about this a lot in the past that I think that human genius then will really start to flower in ways that we haven't really seen before because people have been kind of busy with other stuff. But now they can really start to consider human genius more and see like how they can use their intelligence much more, and that's really really cool. I see it, for example, with DTube, like the amazing vloggers we have over there, the amazing token system, the DTC coin, how good the voting power system works. All that I think is like extremely 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 exciting to see. And also with the Hex project, the way I kind of look at it is the most exciting thing about the Hex project is to actually see how people are going to use their Hex wealth in the real world to, because like when they have this, like, I mean, you can say that money is like energy, right? And when you have this liquid Hex eventually, I mean, you can put it to use. You can use it for its utility. You can make investments. You can go and make so stuff happens in the real world. And that is what I think the most coolest part about Hex, to eventually see, well, what people are going to do with this to actually bring more scale to things. So I have big experience with scale with YouTube, because the way I scaled my channel up to 1 million subscribers was so I reviewed new smartphones. So I unboxed them, I compared the smartphones to other smartphones, and it helped a lot of people because a lot of people were interested in these new smartphones. What kind of features does it have? Do I need it? What gadget is the best one? How do you do these things on this particular device? So I invested, bought new smartphones, bought new computers, and then I basically showcased it to other people and I helped them, and then I could like keep on doing that. And that's basically what we need to do also in the crypto industry. Like if you want to grow this industry, you need to fund stuff. People need money, right? People need money because when they have money, they will go and do more cool stuff. And that's what I think is going to be the most exciting thing about Hex. It's not going to be that, I mean, because Hex is very like, I mean, it's a smart contract. It's already running amazing. You don't really have to do anything. So it's very cool, like when people finish their big stakes and see if they can like see if they can use that value in the real world to bring scale to something or doing something that they really love. That's going to be very very cool, because I think that in a more like scarcity based world that maybe we had in the past, people saw that maybe the max I can do is like buy a cool house or a cool car. But now I think with Hex Wealth that it can be so much more value, like give me 100x or 1,000x more value, so they can do more stuff, right? They can almost like see beyond just real estate and a cool car. If they have so much more value, they can run so many more experiments. And not only can they run a bunch more experiments, but they also have access to better tools, faster computers, faster smartphones. And when they have these better tools, they can come up with better ideas, greater ideas, and it's all like this. It can be this very very interesting positive feedback loop, and that's why I'm kind of excited about this concept of the Hex escape velocity. Take all these things that we have in the world, like Airbnb or like taxi or whatever. Whatever, when you're doing some kind of value exchange. I mean, maybe if hexers have more time and they get into this hex escape velocity where they can get so much from trustless interest, even from like shorter stakes. So maybe they can go then and look at the world. Okay, how can we create the Airbnb of Hex, or Hex hotels, or Hex taxi, or Hex pizza? Where, I mean, in theory, yeah, you can like buy a pizza with Hex, you can buy a Uber ride with Hex in theory. You don't even have to call it Uber. You can call it Hex or Hex taxi, whatever. Hex hotels, pay for a hotel in Hex. There is so many opportunities you can create, and potentially eventually this can lead to eventually a circular economy, and that's really what we want. That's like the long-term goal, where in theory we want like digital ecosystems where people don't have to like exit systems, because now people have to like exit crypto and go into fiat if they actually want to use the value, and that is it's not that efficient, right? So it's going to be very, very cool when eventually I think we can do these circular economies where you can buy a lot most of the goods and services in crypto. Now we're not there yet. We're not that close, right? It's there's a lot of nonsense at the moment where, take for example, like these like nonsense crypto debit cards, like a lot of people get canceled with them. It's complex to just get a plastic card, and it's like, do we even need this when a lot of people just have smartphones? Like, can't you just use like scan and make a payment? And why do we need this like nonsense cards, and why do we need this so many middlemen everywhere for just doing simple tasks, while these middlemen just slow everything down, and like it's not really needed when you have like with the modern technology we have, like you can do theory, we can do more stuff like peer to peer, but for society to kind of move more into that phase, it's like it takes a long time to make them kind of start to consider those kind of mindsets. So I think this industry can go from like zero to hero super fast. And what I mean with that is like you can have it so at the moment, like they're basically none in crypto. I mean, almost like nobody in crypto. But if people start to get into like hex escape velocity, where they have so much value from like trustless interest, even in short periods of time, you can scale a lot of things up very, very fast, I think. And you can have it so a lot of intelligent people are coming together, and they ping off each other and they get exponentially better ideas. So you can see a period just in a couple of months where people are so inspired, and they get so much better ideas that they can kind of compound into actually bring real scale to this industry, where yeah, you can go from zero to hero. Like at the moment, the biggest like social media so-called DPoS apps, they only have like 1,000 users max, and that's like max. And it's a joke, right? Because we're like soon 8 billion humans on this planet, and almost nobody is into crypto. It's like we have no scale there, and we can do so much better. I mean, we can go from 1,000 users in some kind of app, some kind of crypto app, to 1 million users eventually. And when everyone then has a wallet, they eventually will have access to all these new ecosystems. And that's like what humans in crypto are kind of striving towards, that everyone has a wallet, everyone is having fun, and everyone is connected to the same ecosystem, and everyone has access to like great exchanges, hopefully without any middleman. That's what we're kind of striving towards, and it's going to be very exciting to kind of see that play out. And yeah, so that is what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. Hopefully you enjoyed. I love to run the math on these hex escape velocity theories, because I don't know, it's just cool. Like I heard that also like other cool things in the world, that maybe in like 5 years you can have like maybe a nano robot or something like that kind of builds a house for you for just like $4,000. I mean, maybe it's possible. There is a lot of these like interesting opportunities that can open up, and it may be, as I said in the past, like a paradigm shift in the way people are looking at stuff. So I talked about this in the past. We're kind of going from ownership to kind of rent and share age, where people are sort of realizing, well, do you really need to own something when stuff is moving so quick, and that value is more valuable if you can use ship it around faster. You don't really have to own in the same way as you had to do in the past. Now, this is a theory, of course. So yeah, that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. I love the concept of hex escape velocity, and if I search for it, so you know what it means. So if I search for escape velocity, so if I just go to Google and search hex, no, not hex escape velocity, but just escape velocity, so you can hear the definition of it. So it basically means the lowest velocity which a body must have in order to escape the gravitational attraction of a particular planet or other object. So it is this. In physics, escape velocity is the minimum speed needed for a free, non-propelled object to escape from the gravitational influence of a massive body, that is to achieve an infinite distance from it. Escape velocity is functional mass. So I mean, it's like you can consider this escape velocity term of like when you have limitless computing power, eventually, if you get that with this Hex escape velocity theory, you almost have access to limitless energy, and then you may have access to limitless information, and then you have exponential intelligence access to. You kind of get into this mode where you're not in this like gravitational pull down, because I sort of feel that a lot of people are trying to dumb down their intelligence. Uh, and there's a lot of factors at play why that's kind of like the case. Maybe people feel safe to not be as intelligent, but I sort of feel like computing power eventually, and maybe the Hex escape velocity, that's going to push people, thanks to computing power, into a mode where you're sort of starting to realize, wait a sec, it's just better if we have access to limitless intelligence. And yeah, so that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. Hopefully you enjoyed. Have a great day. D2.